Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Wimbledon preview, sponsored by downloadtennis.com.
Murray opens against a fellow Brit.
Tsitsipas versus Thiem in round one.
And Svitolina faces Venus Williams.
Chris, today is the 30th of June. We are here to catch up on the Wimbledon draws, which took place a matter of hours ago. They are hot off the press and we have lots and lots to discuss. We're going to be delving into the draws on the men's and women's singles sections, making some potentially dodgy predictions as usual, and also revealing our collect a set cohort for this edition. How are you feeling, Chris? Excited for Wimbledon? It's only, 3 days away now? Getting your tent ready for the queue?
Well, I am getting my tent ready for the queue, but someone who's got their tent ready already is Joel, who's not with us today. He's in Belgium camping at a festival. So I think maybe he's got himself into the wrong queue, Kim. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't understand why Joel is willing to camp for music, but not for tennis. I thought tennis was his one and only true love. And yet he's not willing to camp for Wimbledon, which has always baffled me. Listeners, we need to try and get Joel to do it just that one time to experience the queue, because he's never actually done it.
We've got to get that on our socials. A poll, if the listeners say he has to do it, then he will do it. I think it's probably because if you live in London, it seems odd to camp in London. Maybe there's something there where he could have the comfort of his home, a nice warm shower, a nice bed, but I'm pretty sure the queues wouldn't be as bad as a festival in terms of camping.
No, the queue is worth it. I do love the queue. The last time we actually saw Joel, he was in a hospitality tent at the Boodles. For all we know, he could still be there. And this camping in Belgium,
a very different tent, Kim.
It's a pretense. Different sort of tent involving champagne. But we had a fantastic day at the Boodles. It was great to see some live tennis, great to chat to some of the players, get some lovely food and drink as well. And yeah, I had a fantastic time. I don't know about you, Chris. It was great.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I think I'd not been to the Boodles before. And I think for anyone who's thinking about it, maybe next year, it's something that is super nice to see. Great tennis, super close up. And the atmosphere is just so relaxed and lovely. So it's definitely no queuing. So I can think that Joel will definitely be back next year. No camping, all very easy. You get a wristband and then everything is unlocked to you. So thank you very much to the Boodles for having us, and we look forward to bringing some of the interviews with some of the players who are featuring in the draw a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's yeah. It was exciting to hear from them, and also we got some. We did ask them a question about the Wimbledon queue, so
it's a very good question, Kim. I have to say, all credit goes to you for the question.
Well, in other news, before we get on to the details of Wimbledon, a piece of news, I think it broke yesterday. Really exciting, and that is that Caroline Wozniacki is returning to the tennis tour. She released this on social media saying that she still has goals she wants to accomplish, and she's decided as a family that it's time for her to get back out there. What did you make of this news, Chris? Could you see this coming? Was it always on the cards, or is it a surprise?
Well, I do. I'm obviously very pleased to hear that she's coming back, but I did go to her farewell match, I think about a year ago. So everyone can change their minds, and if Serena wants to change her mind at any point, of course I will fully support that. But maybe I'd like a refund on that match with Kerber, just because it wasn't the final farewell. I think we will be having a few more matches from her, but I don't think it's kind of been the best kept secret. I think she's been posting quite a lot to her social channels of her kind of hitting the ball again. It's been looking good, and if she's just preparing for the Legends doubles, I feel a bit scared for her opponents. So it does all make a bit more sense now. But as we've said, she's so popular on the tour, and in Denmark, she's basically the Queen of Denmark in many ways, the co-Queen of Denmark. So I think everyone will be very pleased to see her back.
Yeah, it's exciting because you're based in Denmark, so having a big female name back in action on the tour representing Denmark is going to be fantastic. So hopefully, you'll be able to
get her on the pod.
Maybe, share Tennis Weekly with Danish fans even further, beyond Auger-Aliassime. They're going to be great. Really pleased that Caro's coming back. We'll have to see how that goes, and obviously we'll be reporting on it. But I thought that was a really nice, positive bit of news. But also, like you said, that farewell match, I guess it was a farewell for now because she's coming back. But let's talk about Wimbledon. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack with the draws. One thing that kind of we wanted to, I guess, touch upon is and I love all these kind of like the arts and the poster works that we have coming out for all the Grand Slams. I think year on year they kind of go for different styles, different themes, and they're really nice kind of bits of memorabilia. But the Wimbledon poster for this year has caused a bit of controversy, hasn't it, Chris?
Well, I'll describe it quickly for anyone who can't necessarily see it. So it's walking down the stairs of centre court, and at the front it's Alcaraz and Sinner, and then there's rivalries throughout the sort of decades going behind them. And I have to say that the way that this has been done, and I don't think Andy Murray said this just because he's not featured. He did call it a disaster. So there are some fantastic players in there, but like Alcaraz Sinner, of all the Wimbledon rivalries that we know, probably doesn't feature in the foreground. And I get the idea of the future, the current, but they've not played a slam final at Wimbledon, and then they've not necessarily had that rivalry there. And then right at the back is the world number one Iga Swiatek and last year's champion Rybakina, and then just in front of them is the Williams sisters, and then it's quite male dominated, I would say. And then the thing that probably stood out for most of us is that just behind is, the big three. And if you think about Wimbledon, well, I mean, Murray's won 2, Nadal's won 2. And so it's a bit of an odd one. So I think the idea was nice, but I just think it's absolute disaster when it comes to execution. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't actually get the rivalry concept like jumping out at me. I thought, okay, maybe the focus is they just want to focus on like future talent, and they've picked Alcaraz and Sinner as the two that they think are spearheading that maybe, and then they've got the big three behind, and like I guess some former players, and then I couldn't actually, to be honest with you, I couldn't make out that it was even Swiatek and Rybakina at the back.
They're that far back.
So yeah, I think it's not very good that most of the female players are at the back. That just does not help with the kind of gender debate about does the women's tour have parity with the men's tour. I think the fact they focused on 5 male players right at the start is also a bit problematic. I mean, I do love the bit with the big three. I think that's really nice, but
they're having a great time, aren't they, Kim?
And
there's
I like
a hand on a chest from Nadal. They're all very buddying up.
Yeah, they do look like they're having a nice time. I mean, I really like the sort of styling of it, the fact they're walking down the stairs, but I just think there are issues with it. And I'm not sure.
I'd love to hear the conversations, right, Kim, in terms of like, so we're briefing in this piece of artwork. Who should we put at the front? I don't know, maybe Alcaraz Sinner. I probably came up by this and now we're all maybe over scrutinizing it. But I do just think it's one of those things where you think, well, surely Wimbledon doesn't normally put a foot wrong when it comes to some of the things that they put out from a visual perspective. I think it's all very considered. So this does feel like a bit of an anomaly, and I think maybe they'll think twice before they put something out like this again.
Yeah, I think it's just, like the eyes that it's gone through, like on panels or what have you, the process. I'm not sure if it's been fully thought out, but we will see. As I said, I like the artistry of it a lot. And I'm intrigued to see what artistry we're going to get from on-court action at Wimbledon. I hope we're going to see a lot of it because Wimbledon, we have seen a lot of artistry over the years on centre court and across the grounds. Painting the lines, yeah. Let's look at the men's draw to start with. We'll go quarter by quarter. And at the top of the men's draw, we do have Carlos Alcaraz. He has recently regained his number 1 ranking as a result of winning Queens. So he can tick that box for grass court tournament victory. He'll be aiming to go deep at Wimbledon for the first time. He could have a potential quarterfinal with Holger Rune. So that is the, estimated quarterfinal matchup. Obviously, with those sorts of things, especially at Wimbledon, they often don't happen. We do have some surprises along the way. But yeah, generally, what do you make of Alcaraz's section of the draw? Do you think he's on track to reach that quarterfinal? Do you see anyone in that section of the draw challenging him?
I think it's going to be hard, isn't it, when you look at the draw? I think for anyone playing against him, I mean, I personally didn't know that Jeremy Chardy would be able to play in the draw. I thought probably he wouldn't be able to have the ranking up there, but he's got quite a few French players to overcome on his way and some big servers. I think Jarry could obviously potentially take a set. You know, I think a good serve and kind of the willingness to play aggressively, there could be a chance there. But you do have to think that in the fourth round, if he is to play, you know, a Zverev or a de Minaur, that he has made them look quite not like average, but he has made quite short work of them. So for me in this section, I think it's a very good draw for him. And I think the real challenge will come from the quarterfinal stage onwards.
Yeah, I don't see Alcaraz having too many troubles, I guess, early on. Like you said, there's quite a lot of French players in his first couple of rounds, potentially. And I was actually surprised that Nicolas Jarry was the 25th seed. I feel like that crept up on me from nowhere that he would be seeded. Sasha Zverev also in this sort of part of the draw. Alex de Minaur, obviously Queen's finalist. Frances Tiafoe, who has had some good results at slams over the last year. Grigor Dimitrov, a stalwart sort of player. And then at the bottom, actually, Holger Rune and George Lofhagen, a British wildcard. So we'll have to see how he gets on against Holger. I think there's a couple of interesting matches as well in the second quarter, because we've got Medvedev in this part of the draw and also Stefanos Tsitsipas, both players who are not in great form. So they would be the projected quarterfinal lineup from this section. But I don't think any of us have actually predicted either of them in the quarterfinal. Why might that be, Chris? You know, is it the fact they've got difficult draws, or is it just their lack of form? We can't look beyond that right now.
I think I might have got Medvedev for the quarterfinals, but I do just think they haven't had that form coming in. And they also maybe haven't got the most passion for the surface always. I think with Medvedev, we do know that he does love being on a hard court, and he did have that sort of Klaverdev era, which was very much cut short at the French Open. So I would say it's just a case that we haven't seen the evidence that they will be able to put in a good performance here. Obviously, we've seen other slams, they can definitely do that. At big matches and big tournaments, they can get some good wins. But if you look at this draw, I mean, when you see Tsitsipas versus Thiem, two players that really don't necessarily enjoy the grass particularly, and then you see just above those two names, you see a certain Andy Murray, and you have to think going into this, if Murray could get a decent seed who's not in form in sort of the round two that might open up the draw for him, you do have to think this is probably as good a draw as he could get. I don't know what you think, Kim.
Well, I kind of beg to differ. Like, I don't think Tsitsipas is in great form, and I think him against Dominic Thiem is quite an interesting matchup. You know, the two big names, and obviously Thiem is a shadow of his former self, but I think that's still quite an interesting matchup. But the winner of that would play, Andy Murray, most likely. Andy Murray's got Ryan Peniston, fellow Brit, you know, a wild card in the first round. You'd expect Murray to come through that quite comfortably, although Peniston has done well at Queen's before. But I don't know, I think Murray, Tsitsipas, probably the likely round two. I'm still not 100% sure that's like super easy or great draw for Murray. I think he'd still rather not play the number 5 seed.
A big match on centre court, no?
I'm just
Under
thinking,
the roof.
you know, he lost to Alex de Minaur fairly comfortably at Queen's. And I know Alex de Minaur is probably in better form than Tsitsipas right now on a grass court. But I don't know. I kind of feel
Still
like...
a question mark for you.
Still a question mark. I would say Andy could have had a better draw. But
could have had Nicolas Jarry.
If he's going to beat a top seed, then Tsitsipas is one of the ones that's looking vulnerable at the moment based on how he's playing.
They did play last year, Kim, on the grass at Stuttgart, where Murray did win it in straight sets, 7-6, 6-3. So
yeah.
There's hope there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably, would you say out of this section, Seb Korda is looking the more likely of the seeded players to potentially come through, or even Cam Norrie, you know, last year's semi-finalist?
Yeah, I think Korda, this is a good draw. We've talked about him last time, about the fact he has very big expectations of being the Wimbledon favourite, but he's had a pretty decent run into the tournament, and he's got all the weapons for it. He thinks he's moving really well on the grass, so that was probably what I would say the big question I have is, if he is able to play some of the tennis we saw earlier the year in Australia, I mean, why not Seb Korda? I think we've seen him play some fantastic tennis when he took out Dan Evans previously. I think he'll have some really good chances. And I think this is a section where it is kind of what you make it. I think there will be some surprises here. And I mean, there's also kind of Tommy Paul, who's not necessarily the biggest clay court fan or necessarily a grass court fan, and he might face a certain Milos Raonic, who's making his comeback at a slam here. So there's a few players in here that I think could probably spring an upset, and a few players that do particularly well on grass, like a Manarina, for example, might be a tricky one for Medvedev. So I think this one is probably the hardest section for me to predict or to have any idea. Not that we ever do, Kim, but to have any clue as to what might happen.
We do our best, but it is hard. And Arthur Ferry has Medvedev in the first round. Arthur Ferry is a British wild card. So that's a good experience and exposure for him. I also think that Korda, I think he will come through, but Jiri Vesely in the first round isn't easy because Vesely has a big serve and has been known to just on his day take out a top player. So I don't think that's like the most straightforward of openers for Korda, but I do think Korda's in good shape.
There's a Cerundolo, isn't there? There's a certain Cerundolo there that I think you might think could be making a run, Kim.
Well, I may or may not have put Cerundolo in the quarterfinals because I just feel like he might be sort of very consistent and just get the job done in a couple of 4 or 5 setters along the way, but we'll get to that shortly. Let's have a look at the third quarter, because I think this could potentially be another wide open section, because we've got the likes of Jannik Sinner and Casper Ruud in this bit of the draw. Obviously Casper Ruud we haven't seen on a grass court. He's been off playing golf and what have you, and Jannik Sinner is not in great form. I don't think we've seen the fitness or the form from him really, and they would be the top 2 kind of seeded players in this bit. So I think there's a potential for, I guess, Taylor Fritz to come through and have a great Wimbledon again. Dan Evans, British player, perhaps he can get a few wins under his belt. Roberto Bautista Agut, former semi-finalist, perhaps we will see him go deep again, or Borna Coric. We spoke to him at the Boodles and he hasn't played on grass for a while, but it could well be that he goes on a run. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this is wide open, and on the Coric point, I mean, I don't think I'd realised that he hadn't played on grass for 4 seasons. So when we were speaking to him, I think I was quite surprised to hear that he's kind of learning how to play on grass again. So I think we can listen to a little bit of that now. So it's your first time on grass for quite a number of seasons. I think it's 4 or 5 seasons. 4 seasons.
4 or 5 seasons, yeah.
So in terms of how your preparation's going, how is it kind of rediscovering your grass court game?
Yeah, obviously it hasn't been easy. Like I said, I haven't played well in the last 2 weeks, but hopefully these 2 matches can get me some confidence, and I can get into some kind of the rhythm, and also just to get used to on the grass and on the movement. So yeah, it's going to be good. Hopefully.
Is there anything that you've forgotten about grass that surprised you?
I mean, I knew it's going to be tough. I knew it's going to be slippery. I knew I'm not going to move well, and I was ready for that. Obviously, I was hoping for a little bit better results. It just didn't happen. So obviously, I'm here now, and I'm just focused on the Wimbledon and on my tomorrow's match.
And in terms of Wimbledon, so how high are you setting your expectations, or are you kind of taking it a match at a time and seeing how it goes?
Not really high, to be honest. I actually never set any expectations, but especially on the grass, as you said, in the last 4 years I haven't been playing much, and then also, like I said before, I haven't been playing great on the grass this year, so there's actually no expectations at all. I just want to play my best tennis as possible. I want to prepare very well, and I just need to give myself a chance to play my best tennis.
And in terms of the match today, you look super focused out there. So in terms of how you're using this as preparation, are you treating it as kind of an exhibition, or are you treating it very much as kind of a match play?
As a match play, to be honest. As I said, also I need the matches on the grass especially, and I need to get used to the points on the returns as well. So I was trying to be very focused and to be serious, as in a couple of days I'm going to be playing in the Wimbledon for the first time after 4 years. And I'm actually also really I'm also really looking forward to that. So like I said, I just want to give myself the best chance. Yeah,
absolutely. So a big part of Wimbledon is the queue, and so a question that we've been asking the players is, if you're queuing, who would you queue for, past or present? If there's someone that you would think was worth camping for overnight?
For the Goran Ivanišević.
Yeah?
Yeah. Queue for him. Yeah. No
absolutely. Yeah. How many nights? Every night he's playing?
Every night. No problem for him to watch him. Back then especially.
Yeah.
Also even now, but especially back then. Yeah.
it's great that he did say Ivanisevic there as well. I think that was Kim's question, the number one question of the day, which was around who would you queue for, and maybe if he does a few big serves like that, Kim, he has a chance of making a deep run here on the grass.
Yeah, if he can channel his, inner Corin Ivanisevic, former Wimbledon champion, then why not? He wasn't too optimistic, but I think it's certainly possible. And Taylor Fritz, he did so well here last year, almost got to semi-finals, had that amazing match with Rafa, but he's got Yannick Hanfmann in the first round, who has been doing well out in Mallorca this week and is, quite nifty on the grass. So even that's not easy for Fritz. And I think we've seen Fritz in the last year having some also very early exits at Grand Slam. So it's, something that he will be trying hard to avoid
Absolutely.
This time round.
Because I remember coming out of Wimbledon, he had really big expectations at the US Open last year where he thought he could win it, and he went out in the first round. And one thing I have seen on social media that I did find slightly funny is that his partner, Morgan, has got deals with all these brands for the entirety of Wimbledon. And then obviously he lost quite early this week. And then coming into this, I think maybe some of those deals with Ralph Lauren addressing her might be dependent on his performance. So I think he'll definitely be cheered on from his girlfriend in that one, because there's a lot of outfits to get through. So otherwise he might be in the doghouse on that one. But I don't necessarily see him coming through the first round, if I'm really honest, when it comes to that one. I think I probably have picked him to make it through in my predictions, but I don't think that's going to be straightforward at all. And I think when you look at some of the rest of this side of the draw, I think it's so dependent on getting past those players that might make it a bit awkward or a bit uncomfortable and getting to the later stages, because there are so many players. I mean, who would have thought that we might think that Casper actually has a good chance of making it to his seeding in a Wimbledon draw? I think the big challenge for him will be kind of Bautista Agut, because we know he's so good on grass. He's been playing some really great tennis. He's obviously taken out Medvedev recently. And so I kind of just feel like this is another section. We've talked about the last section being open, but it really is anyone's. Well, not anyone's to win. I think it's Djokovic's to lose, but I think it's anyone's to get through some of these quarters.
Yeah, I think Ruud's draw is actually pretty reasonable. And I mean, I think Dan Evans actually has quite a nice draw as well. And if Sinner isn't in great form, Evans would be the one to, I guess, benefit if he can just get his job done in those early matches. Liam Brody's also in this section, another British wildcard against Constant Lestienne of France. I think that's a winnable match. I do love, though, when you're looking at the men's draw, you just see some matches that have like 5 sets written all over them. One of those I'm earmarking is Dominic Koepfer against Oscar Otter. I think that could be a 5-setter. I think Lloyd Harris, Gregoire Barrère could be a 5-setter.
Screams 5 sets.
Yeah, and I think like earlier on in the draw, we had like Berrettini, Sonego, 2 Italians. Berrettini, has been beaten by Sonego, before, and obviously is coming back from injury, so probably not in the greatest of shape. So I think that could be a bit of a tussle. Stricker against Popyrin, like there's quite a few matches as I was reading through the draw. I thought
even Coric as well. Coric versus Peja. I mean, Guido Peja is known for very much liking a long match, and I think given kind of the fact the courts are playing a bit slower, Kim, if you've got a ticket, you better make sure that you're to buckle up, because you'll be in for a few long matches, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You get your money's worth, that's for sure, with some of the men's matches. Let's look at the last quarter of the men's draw. I mean, is there much point looking beyond Novak Djokovic for this part of the draw, or for any part of the draw, you could argue? I think he's got a very nice draw. I don't see any player that's going to challenge him in this section, to be quite honest with you, especially in his kind of opening 3 or 4 rounds. His seeded quarterfinalist opponent would be Andrei Rublev. Nick Kyrgios is also in this draw as well, seeded, but we know he's struggling a bit with an injury. And we've got Felix Auger-Aliassime here. Bublik, who recently won a title. Hubert Hurkacz has done well on grass before, but I just don't see anyone beating Djokovic over 5 sets from this quarter of the draw. Do you disagree?
How can you disagree? I mean, I always love to disagree with someone, but I think on this one, I just can't. I think the more that you see of Djokovic playing, and even that match he played recently in an exhibition against Tiafoe, I mean, it looked like he wasn't really having to kind of turn anything on, and Tiafoe was competing pretty hard, and he looked pretty effortless on the grass. And I think that's something that we see in this section, that there isn't anyone that really has that level of like consistent experience in this part of the draw. And I think with Djokovic, I mean, at Wimbledon, he's almost impossible to beat. And at Slams in this year, he has proved too much to beat. So I think it's almost the best of the rest in this section. And I think there are some chances here for some players, especially in the top half of this last quarter. For Rublev, I think he would obviously love to get to a quarterfinal here at Wimbledon, but the chance of going beyond a quarterfinal, I think he will still remain the bridesmaid, Kim, to borrow a term from you. But I think the real thing that I'd like to see is kind of like, what Bublik will we get here, Kim? Will he keep it going, or will it be a first round exit?
Well, I think Mackenzie McDonald's been in good form this week, and I, think he on his day he's a great player. But I was thinking of actually predicting Mackenzie McDonald to get to the quarterfinal or Bublik, but then I thought sometimes players who've done well recently, they kind of almost tire out, don't they, when they get to Wimbledon, and you can't always go off the recent form. But yeah, I'm not sure really. I've personally still gone for Rublev just because of generalized consistency at Slams. But I mean, what about Felix though? We spoke to him after his first match on grass at the Boodles, which was against Diego Schwartzman. He said he was feeling pretty good actually heading into Wimbledon, and also an interesting answer from him about who he would queue for. So let's hear from him now.
In terms of this, your first match on grass.
Yes.
How did you find it? How's your game going?
Pretty good. Diego's a good player on the surface. Of course, with his height, the bounce is low, and you just feel like he's on it. He's on the ball every time. And even though, yes, I have an advantage with my serve, I do feel like he's a tough player to play on grass, and so it was a good challenge for me. I thought I did pretty good for my first match on grass. I played 2 good sets. I could have won the first set. I had a great second one. So, overall, I'm happy. I'm happy with my games up.
So you're feeling positive heading into Wimbledon?
Clearly, yeah, I'm feeling good.
Nice. And then the final question. So, if you were to queue for Wimbledon, who would you queue for? We're talking camping, not just like turning up on the morning. You're staying the night.
Oh, yeah, I'm staying the night.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Is there a player, past or present, that springs to mind that you would...
Oh, past or present?
Yeah.
Definitely... If there was a McEnroe Borough match, I'd sleep 2 nights.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. I have so many vivid memories of recent matches, Rafa, Roger, and I've seen them play and I've played them, but I've never seen these guys play live, right?
Yeah.
And you only see vintage videos, and you're I just feel like it was a cool time. It was different. Now it's very professional. It's good. The level has gone even higher, but I feel like maybe they were even more expressive at the time, and
it's a piece of history.
Yeah, there's something different about it. They also really had a big impact, like John in America and Bjorn all over Europe on tennis and fans that were following. So I would have loved to see them play.
And I did tell a lie. Favorite thing to do in London is my final question.
Favorite thing to do in London?
When you're at Wimbledon.
Oh, at Wimbledon?
Or could be broader. It's open.
Play tennis.
Play tennis. Yeah. I only come here to play tennis.
Super original.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to do.
So routine, is there something that you always keep in your schedule when you're here?
Honestly, it might sound boring, but we get a house every time, and I rarely do that when I'm on tournaments. I'm usually staying at the hotel, and my mom is on vacation. She's not at work. She always comes to Wimbledon. So my favorite part is just coming back home.
That's super
and
nice.
have her cook home meal. That's just my favorite part. I walk, or basically we take a drive, but it's 5 minutes to the site, and then after that to come back home and feel like you're it's back when you were a kid. It feels nice.
Super cozy. Thank you so much for your time, Felix.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I love the fact that he said he would actually camp 2 nights there.
Listen
that's
up,
real
Joel.
dedication.
Yeah, Joel, listen to that. Even Felix is going to camp.
Exactly. Although the players he wants to camp for, aren't around, I guess, playing on the tour, of course.
He can camp, but fingers crossed, maybe he'll walk past them if they're commentating.
He'll be camping for forever, for nothing. Legends. But yeah, he seemed like he would actually consider it, which is nice. And we'll have to see how he does. But I think that brings us nicely on to our predictions now, Chris, because we've gone through, top level kind of draws here. Let's see who we've got quarter by quarter. Joel's also very kindly sent his in from Belgium, so we'll see how ours compare or differ. Who have you got in your first quarterfinal?
I couldn't see past Alcaraz and Rune for that one.
Oh, I've gone Alcaraz Tiafoe. I'm not so convinced by Rune, but I know you tend to,
Well, Joel and I tend to be,
him.
don't we?
Joel's also gone Alcaraz Rune. Second quarter, who have you got?
I did go for Medvedev. I'm starting to think that maybe that wasn't a good choice based on the fact that neither of you two did, but I went for Medvedev and Korda.
Okay. So you have gone for Medvedev. I went for Korda as well. So has Joel. This is where we've kind of thrown in, I guess, maybe some slightly different individuals. I've gone for Cerundolo to reach the quarterfinal.
I can't believe that.
And Joel's gone for Talon Griegspor.
Desperate times
did win a grass
quarter 2.
court event recently. That just shows how little faith me and Joel have in Medvedev right now on grass. So I'm sure he'll prove us wrong. What about your third quarter, Chris?
Well, I've gone for Bautista Agut versus Fritz. I feel like that could be the one that's going to happen, even though I said already that Fritz might go out round 1. So I'm covering all bases.
Yeah. Well, I'm in agreement with you on Bautista Agut, RBA. I've gone for him, but I've gone for Nishioka.
Kim has gone rogue.
To come through. I've gone really rogue. I couldn't help myself.
It doesn't work when we don't go rogue. So why? No, you normally win, Kim. This is really rogue for you.
I just wasn't convinced about Taylor Fritz. I didn't know his girlfriend had signed up for all of the sponsorships.
He's here for the whole week, no matter what. He has to win.
That's extra motivation for him. If I'd known that before, I would have predicted him. No, but Joel's gone for the same as you as well. Fritz against RBA. So we'll have to see how that pans out. And then your fourth quarter, who have you gone for? I'm guessing Djokovic, obviously.
Well, I was thinking I'd probably go Djokovic here, but I believe I've gone for the same as Joel again, with Djokovic and Bublik making it through. Did you go for something different?
Yeah, you and Joel are quite similar, actually. I've gone for Rublev Djokovic. I think Rublev's just general consistency is going to carry him through, but I think he'll crumble in the face of a Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinal.
Positive.
So let's look at our semi-final lineups. Who have you got in your semi-finals, Chris?
So in my semi-finals, I've gone for Alcaraz Korda. I think that'll be a very interesting one. And then in the other semi-final, I've gone for another deep run for RBA, and he's facing off against Djokovic.
Oh, I've gone for exactly the same as you.
Really?
Once we've got to the semis, yeah, I've weaned out the sort of
I feel a lot more confident
slightly
in my decision
erroneous
now, Kim. I don't like aligning with Joel.
Well, Joel's gone quite similar. He's got Korda and Djokovic as well, but he's gone for Holger Rune instead of Carlos Alcaraz. And he's got Taylor Fritz instead of RBA. So, he's going with kind of Fritz from last Wimbledon and that kind of form. So your final, I'm assuming Novak Djokovic features.
I've got 1 and 2, Alcaraz Djokovic with a Djokovic win.
Okay, I've gone for exactly the same. Joel has gone for Rune against Djokovic with Djokovic winning. But we are unanimous in the fact that we think that Novak Djokovic is going to win. I think there's absolutely no way he is not winning this Wimbledon, barring sort of exceptional circumstances. So it's up to all 127 other players in the draw. I had to think then for a minute to see if they can do their best to stop that from happening. So on that note, we're going to take a very quick break, but we'll be back in the second half to look at the women's draw and also to reveal our collector set player picks. So do not go anywhere. This episode is brought to you by NordVPN.
NordVPN is a virtual private network, which means it protects your internet connection and privacy online.
VPNs create an encrypted tunnel for your data, protecting your online identity by hiding your IP address.
But what does this mean for our Tennis Weekly listeners? Well, we chose to partner with NordVPN because it will allow you to watch tennis wherever you are.
With NordVPN, you can connect to servers around the world, so when you're looking to watch live tennis and get that pesky message, this stream is not available in your market, all you have to do is open NordVPN, click on a location, and you'll be connected in seconds.
Personally, I've been using NordVPN for the last 2 years since I moved to Denmark, allowing me to still connect to my UK streaming services and watch all the tennis matches I need to in order to provide the best analysis I can every week on the podcast.
So if you're looking to watch every court at Wimbledon, but you can't in your market, or you're on your summer holiday and want to keep up on all the action from SW19, then NordVPN has you covered.
Download NordVPN today with our exclusive deal at NordVPN/tennisweekly. But make sure you use our link to secure the best deal and support the podcast. It really does help us keep doing what we love.
Plus, it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Sign up before the players are ready and take to the court. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, sponsored by downloadtennis.com. And now we're going to move on to look at the women's draw for the Championships 2023. Quarter one, we do have the top seed Iga Swiatek spearheading that one, but it's not the easiest of draws, to be fair. Like, it's not the easiest of quarters for her. We've got Coco Gauff in there as well. We've got Victoria Azarenka, Kasatkina, a whole host of also, some former Grand Slam champions. Venus Williams, Sophia Kenin is in there as a qualifier. So, yeah, lots to unpick from this section of the draw. What matches kind of drew your eye, Chris, when you were looking through the women's draw earlier?
Well, Kim, as always, I'm in the trenches watching the draw live, and there were gasps around, audible gasps, when Venus Williams, Svitolina came up, because I think that they are two fan favourites who both got wildcards, and you almost can't believe they drew each other. I think it's probably one where the crowd will be very split in terms of who they will want to win that one. I think Venus, hopefully, in terms of the history she has at the championships, will have a lot of support there, but that's definitely a match you'd like to see on a great sort of show court. And then I guess the Kenin-Gauff match. I mean, Kenin has been playing very well in qualifying. I believe there's a certain individual might have secured a cap from Sophia Kenin at qualifying. Is that right, Kim?
Yeah, big shout out to my dad. He got Sophia Kenin to sign his Pete cap after her first qualifying match, which he was quite chuffed about. So,
is that a good omen, though? Will that mean? Will it become more valuable as the tournament goes on, Kim?
Maybe so. The last signed cap he got was from Sabine Lisicki as well. So I don't know what that says about my dad's taste in tennis players, or
finalists,
the future for Sophia Kenin. Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited for that match. I think that's obviously one of the ones that kind of caught my eye as well. And there's a few Brits in this section as well. Katie Swan has got Belinda Bencic. Katie Swan being on a wild card, and Harriet Dart on a wild card has got Deanne Parry. And Jodie Burrage as well, Katie McNally. So a lot of Brits in this section. Some of them, I think, more winnable than others. I think all winnable, if you think about it. Even the Bencic one, to be quite honest with you. So let's hope that the British girls can get some good performances and be moved along by the home support, as we've seen in the past. Also, some question marks potentially over Swiatek. She pulled out of Bad Homburg with sort of a food poisoning, like fever. So, depending on how quickly she recovers, that she may not be at her best. And she's not in the same section as Rybakina, who will be opening proceedings on Tuesday. So Swiatek will be playing on Monday. So that's even less time for her to recover. So yeah, kind of got that at the back of my mind when I was thinking about my predictions, actually.
Yeah, there are some question marks there, and I saw some clips, and it seems like she's playing a grass court, like a clay court this year, and she made her first ever semi-final on grass, and then she pulled out. I do think there is this real tendency for players to pull out of matches when it comes to that week before a slam, and to err on the side of caution. So food poisoning is awful, and that can really take it out of you, but I do hope it's more on the fever side of things, and that maybe it might just be not too bad an instant, because there isn't a great deal of time to recover from something like that. And a kind of only the likes of kind of Serena Williams and Djokovic can kind of play when they seem to be kind of have a fever and be down. So it feels like she'll be hoping to recover in time, and we want to see her fully fit for that one. We do have to give a special mention as well for a match that Joel would have without question mentioned, which is Trevisan versus Sorribes Tormo. And if we're talking about matches that might go 5 sets on the men's side, I think this has the longest match in Wimbledon women's history kind of on the cards, minus the tie. Obviously, the tiebreak will cut it short, but that screams final set tiebreak, don't you think, Kim?
If they could play 5 sets, they would. Is
They
what
really
I think.
would.
Yeah, yeah. That would be a disappointment if it's like love and one. To be honest, so I hope for Joel's sake they live up to our billing. In the second quarter, we've got a number of players who I think could potentially break through and go quite far here. Actually, we've got the top 2 seeds in this section are Pegula and Garcia. Garcia, she did retire from Eastbourne with a shoulder injury, so I'm really not sure how bad that might be, if it was just precautionary. Her draw's okay if it is, but it will depend on how physically she is. And Jessie Pegula, she's got a tough opener with Lauren Davis, who's quite nifty on the grass court. But I think in this section of the draw, the player that's really caught my eye was Donna Vekic, because she's had some great wins in the last couple of weeks on a grass court. We know she loves the grass. I think she's been to the quarterfinals here. Can she go even further this year, Joel? Chris, looking at the draw.
I'll answer for both Joel and Chris for this one. I'll do my best. I think that based on what Joel has gone for in his predictions, I think we both think she can go pretty far here. So she's played some great tennis, and she's always been a great grass court player. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. Some of the matches, I think the Wimbledon match against Konta was just an unbelievable women's tennis match that really sticks out for me in my memory as just being top tier serving and top tier grass court tennis. And I think this is definitely a section where there's a lot of opportunity for Vekic. She really has got her ranking all the way back to where it was before she obviously had a very bad run with injury. She's got great form, and hopefully she's able to kind of take that all the way through here. Unless Sloane Stephens puts in a good performance, the famous grass courter that she is. I don't think she's played a warm-up tournament, but if they do play in a potential round 2 match, I would be a bit torn on that one, Kim. I'm not sure, but there's definitely potential here for some surprise packages in this section. Do you think Pegula will make it all the way? Do you think that we're going to get the seedings living up to their billing here?
Well, Pegula's normally very consistent at a slam, so I think if she makes it past Lauren Davis, I can see her reaching the 4th round. But I have high hopes for Samsonova. Maybe Kudermetova. I mean, these are 2 players that weren't allowed to play here last year. We've got to remember the Russian and Belarusian players are back. So that's a whole year where we don't know what they would have done on the Wimbledon grass. So perhaps that brings in an unknown entity to some extent. I think a lot of those players will be jumping with joy at the fact that they are allowed to be here and compete. So maybe they're going to try and make the most of it even more than they, typically would. So that's, something to consider. I don't have high hopes for Garcia, though. I don't think she's been in quite the right form, and obviously with this injury. So I am looking at the Vekics and the Samsonovas to kind of come through, actually, probably over Pegula. Looking at the third quarter as well, this could be the toughest section of them all, along with maybe the first quarter, because here we have got the defending champion Elena Rybakina. We've also got last year's finalist Ons Jabeur, and we've got previous champion Petra Kvitova here, also former finalist Karolina Pliskova, and Yelena Ostapenko, who has been in really good form, but also has just retired from her match in Eastbourne as well. I think she said she was feeling dizzy, so perhaps a bit of a question mark over her current sort of health or fitness. What jumped out at you from this section? Because there's a lot of good grass quarters, I think, in this section, and it's not going to be easy. Whoever comes through this will really have had to have battled hard to get there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the draw here with Rybakina Ons, obviously, as we've talked about, it was last year's final. So that really is a fantastic kind of 2 fantastic grass court players who, that went to 3 sets last year. We've also got kind of Kvitova, and I think a lot of people are really willing Kvitova onto a good result here. We talked about it last time, how she hasn't gone past, I think, the 4th round or the 3rd round here for some time. I think since 2014, since her last win. So it's been a case where she's put the grass court results in prior to Wimbledon and then been upset. So a lot of people would like to see Kvitova go deep. She's playing the tennis, and if she is on an on week, she can do a lot of damage here. And personally, I think this is the most difficult section. I think there are threats all over. And her dad Maya, we haven't even mentioned, who obviously had that phenomenal grass court season last year. So when it came to the predictions, we've got a lot of players who a little bit unknown how they'll play on the day. And Rybakina, I don't know what you think, but she's pulled out of a few tournaments recently. She's obviously not recovered from that illness that she had in Paris. And I don't know if that makes it hard to predict that she will go deep here.
Yeah, she said she was still like feeling, I think, some, ongoing like symptoms or still recovering from that illness. So yeah, I really don't know what to expect. And I think, was last year, she's obviously proved that last year wasn't, a one-off. She's got to the Australian Open final, had some great wins as well since, but it's so hard, isn't it, to win your first slam and then like defend it 12 months later. So I think the odds are against her in that respect anyway. So I think she should probably try and just go in and like take the pressure off and not think too much about the expectation. But obviously all eyes are going to be on her because of what she did a year ago. It's not easy with this one, and Shelby Rogers is known to be a bit of a giant killer, so that's not the easiest opener. I also think Yelena Ostapenko, she could have Sorana Castella or Tatiana Maria in the second round. Maria was the semi-finals last year.
Semi-finals last year, yes.
Castella also another giant killer, so that's not easy. There is just like no easy match.
Nowhere to
in this
hide
section.
in third quarter.
I think Katie Boulter's got a nice draw though. British wildcard. Obviously, she won Nottingham. She's got Daria Saville in the first round, so I think that's definitely winnable for Boulter. So I'd like to see her pick up a few wins here and make the most of her recent grass court success. Andreescu's also in this section of the draw, unseeded, just there. I think she could perhaps pick up a few wins. She might face Jabal in the third round. So yeah, this is a very difficult section, and I commend anyone who does come through it. Let's look finally at the last quarter. Here we've got the likes of Maria Sakkari and Arina Sabalenka. That would be the sort of predicted quarter. But I'm also looking at Karolina Muchova, recent French Open finalist. I'm looking at Barbora Krejcikova, who I know you always have high hopes for, Chris.
Always have high hopes for.
Madison Keys, I think she's a very solid player. And Jule Niemeyer, that surprise quarterfinalist as well from 12 months ago, is here. Where were your eyes drawn to on this section of the draw? Who do you think is most likely to come through?
Well, I mean, I've seen Muchova play at Wimbledon before, and I think she took out Pliskova that year, and she's got the perfect game for grass. I think she's got the perfect game for pretty much every court, except for maybe, an ultra quick sort of hard court. Maybe I think that would be where she can't do as much with the ball. No, I think that I would love to see her have another deep run and kind of cement her status right at the top of the game. She's obviously taking some time off. So I do think that it's a difficult one to predict because you never know how it's going to go. And obviously, Jule Niemeyer in the first round is a very difficult first round match, especially given how much Jule obviously loves to play at Wimbledon. I'm not really looking at Sakkari. I know we always say this. I think whether it's Kostyuk in the first round or Badosa in the second round, I don't think she's going to have a deep run here. And then I would say there's, Mira Andreeva. That could be an interesting one. She opens against Wang, and then in the second round that could be Krejcikova. So I'm thinking this might be one where the seeds might not match up again, because I also think that Muchova could be a very tricky fourth round opponent for Sabalenka. So the Sabalenka question for me would be of the draws that I've seen of top seeds, potentially Kimona Georgi, and then potentially a Muchova or Alexandrova, who both are in form. I think it could be a really tough ask to get to the final here. Yeah,
and I'm just wondering who's going to be maybe the Jule Niemeyer of 2023. That's
we're all wondering.
Complete surprise package.
Yeah.
And Andreeva, I had high hopes. I think based on what I saw from her at Roland Garros, she's qualified through. I think she could spring a surprise. It's we say this every time. It's incredibly difficult, and I wouldn't want to be in this draw myself. But you can only play who you've got, in front of you on the other side of the net. And I guess whether certain players will be looking at all the ramifications of their quarters, I don't know. But Sabalenka, I know she's got some potentially tricky ones. I still think she's going to come through. I think once she gets onto that grass, I think she's got the weapons, and as long as she can execute, I think she's would be very hard to beat. That brings us on to our women's predictions, Chris. And I think, compared to our predictions for the men, where we were fairly aligned, we all have the same champion, that's not the case with the women's draw. So
I've just seen who I put. It looks a bit different now we've gone through the analysis, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, when did you make these predictions,
I did it
Chris?
immediately as it was happening. Yeah, I did it before.
Okay, so let's tell our listeners what we've gone for. So quarter one, who do you have as your matchup?
I think I'm still in the safe zone here. I've gone for Swiatek and Goff.
Yeah, I've actually gone for the same, and so has Joel. What about your second quarter?
This is where the differences start, isn't it, Kim? I've gone for Samsonova Vekic.
Oh, I've gone for Samsonova as well. And I was debating endlessly about Vekic, and I thought, maybe she's going to fizzle out earlier than we think. So I've gone for Kudermetova. And Joel, though, has gone for Vekic, but he's gone for Zheng, actually, which I think actually could be quite a good shout.
Could be a good shout.
I'm kind of sticking a bit with Samsonova, though. I predicted her to win Wimbledon, I think, 2 years ago.
I remember listening to that as well. Yeah, you love, every year there's one really rogue winner prediction from you, Kim.
So, and I almost got Mukova right maybe 3 years after I predicted her at the French, so you never know. What about your third quarter final, Chris?
Well, I went for Kvitova Ostapenko because I just think on their day they can cause some problems.
Oh, well, Joel's gone for exactly the same, and I've gone for something.
Kiss of death.
I've gone for something completely different. I've not looked at recent form. I've gone for Ons Jabeur and Elena Rybakina. Last year's final being repeated in the quarterfinal. So I don't know. I'm not so sure about that now. I've seen both of your predictions, but let's see. And what about your fourth quarterfinal?
I've gone Krejcikova, Alexandrova.
Oh, okay. Well, Joel's gone for Krejcikova as well. He's gone for Sabalenka alongside her. I've also gone for Sabalenka, but I've gone for Madison Keys because I think she's a very solid player. Seems to be getting some wins this week. And I think I also predicted her in the quarters at the French, but she didn't get
but
there.
It didn't go that well. So you're sticking with your guns.
She will not let me down this time. Come on, Madison. What about your semi-final then? What's your semi-final lineup?
So I've gone for an upset. I've never seen Coco Gauff play better than she has this week. I think something's changed. Gauff, Vekic is going to be in one semi-final. And then I've gone really rogue, gone Kvitova, Alexandrova.
Okay, Alexandrova as a semi-finalist. Interesting. But yeah, don't see why not. Well, I've gone for Swiatek. I feel like she'll overcome her food poisoning fever, whatever it is, and I still feel like at a slam,
even with a fever,
she's probably still the favourite over Gauff, although it is grass, so hey ho. But I've gone for Swiatek versus Kudermetova, and I've gone for Rybakina versus Sabalenka, so which is a repeat of the Australian Open final. And Joel has gone for Swiatek against Vekic and Kvitova against Sabalenka. So yeah, a couple of similarities as well. So who's your final between, Chris?
Well, I've gone for Gauff and Kvitova. I think I'm not feeling too confident. And I said that Coco's going to win it. I just think it's time. I think something's changed. I'm doing a U-turn. This is Coco's moment.
So Coco Gauff is winning Wimbledon?
Yeah, she's winning Wimbledon.
I've gone for Swiatek against Sabalenka. So I feel like, I feel like Rybakina might not go all the way this time. I'm going for Sabalenka as my champion. She's going to have too much firepower in the final and serve amazingly well to win it. But Joel has gone for Swiatek against Kvitova with Swiatek winning.
That's a little rogue.
We have three different champions.
Yeah, we do.
Our predictions for the women. Swiatek, Sabalenka or Gauff. Listeners, do you agree with any of those? Let us know your thoughts.
We'll put them all up on social media, and please do let us know who you think might have got it right, because I'm not sure that we know.
Yeah, we're sort of clutching at straws. We're making it up as we go along. No, Wimbledon is going to spring some surprises, I think, that's for sure. One other predictions challenge, obviously, that we run is collector set. So I think it is now time to reveal our collector set picks for Wimbledon 2023. For any listeners who are maybe new or haven't played it before, it's basically our predictions challenge that we run. And you have 6 different players, 3 men, 3 women, and you have to tell us what round you think they're going to get to in the draw. So will they get to the second round? Will they get to the fourth round? Will they get to the quarterfinals? Or will they win? So you need to tell us which round you think they're going to reach. And if you're predicting them to get to the final, we need to know if they're going to win or they're going to be like the losing finalist. So there is a prize on offer. It's a very special Tennis Weekly mug. Who wouldn't
very
want
hard
one of those,
to get hold
Chris?
of. Very hard to get hold of.
Limited edition. So it's definitely worth your while entering. Plus, it's just the pride from winning. It's a very hard challenge. It is a pride.
It really is. It's if you can win at Collector Set, you really must be doing something right.
Absolutely. So we'll need predictions in before play starts on Monday morning UK time. But now is the time to reveal who our player picks are going to be. So Chris, would you like to kick us off and do the honours and reveal our male Collector Set players?
Indeed. So we have Frances Tiafoe, newly in the top 10. We've got Andy Murray, and we've got Casper Ruud.
Ooh, TFO, Murray and Ruud. That's quite tough. I think they're all quite tough, those ones. So I will reveal our female player picks. We have Iga Swiatek, world number 1. We have Petra Kvitova, 2-time former Wimbledon champion. And we've got Donna Vekic, who, as we said earlier, is in good form. She's got her seeding up. Two of us have her going to the semi-finals. What's she going to do for you? Have a look at the draws, make your predictions, let us know on social media, or you can email us, let us know your predictions. What are you thinking for all of those players? Frances Tiafoe, Andy Murray, Casper Ruud, Iga Swiatek, Petra Kvitova, and Donna Vekic. Let us know how far you think they're going to go in the Wimbledon draw. And we'll be revealing our picks in our next episode, which will be our round 1 catch-up.
More predictions.
More slam spoons of shame. I
still
think,
got it from the last time. I want to get rid of it as soon as possible, Kim.
But yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday night, I think, to do our round 1 catch-up. And we'll be looking at any surprises from the first couple of days. I'll be sharing my experience because I'm planning on being there for day 1 and day 2, actually. So I'll be on site, hopefully, to bring some kind of local insight. I'll be frequenting the Wimbledon Queue as well, as usual. So I'm going off to pack my bags and my tent very shortly.
Wonderful. And please do tell us how that goes, Kim, because I'm thinking about camping later in the week. So that would be ideal. Any tips? Maybe we'll do like a Kim's guide to the queue. That might be something our listeners could really use and find helpful.
Unofficial guide to the queue, yeah, because there is the official queue guide that Wimbledon publish, which fortunately doesn't feature a picture of Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner on the front.
They're not camping.
Maybe I could design my own and, put other players on there. But listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast, reviewing the Wimbledon draw. I hope that's got you excited and ready for the championships to start on Monday. Do remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all of the action from the ATP and WTA tours. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
You can also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And all those channels, we're Tennis Weekly Pod. So do follow us for all of our updates from Wimbledon. And I'm sure we'll be posting pictures from the queue and from when Kim and I are on site later in the week. You can also email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we'll be back next Tuesday at Tennis Weekly HQ for our round 1 Wimbledon catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We will see you again soon.